So, if you've been watching Book Break for a while, then you might remember this book, as my previous host Lena did a video all about it. Eat, Sweat, Play by Anna Kessel is an empowering book all about women in sport. Anna, however, is also a campaigner and has most recently started the Blue Plaque Rebellion campaign in order to recognise pioneering sportswomen. Blue plaques designate sites around the city where important figures did important things, and we at Macmillan, along with Anna Kessel, think there are a few women that have been left off of this list. So in order to bring a little bit of recognition to this campaign, Anna has been running around London putting up her own blue plaques dedicated to these pioneering sportswomen, one of which recognises Emma Clarke, who is believed to be the first black female football player. And whilst she was doing this, she sat down with Danielle Carter, female football player for the Arsenal team, to chat a little bit more about pioneering sportswomen, including Emma Clarke. So with introductions over, let's get to the good stuff.
We're here with Danielle Carter, England and Arsenal star, to celebrate Emma Clarke, the first known black female footballer from 1895. Oh, that's cool. So in 1895, the first ever women's football match in England was played, we think, about here. Around 11,000 people came to watch them, and there was a lot of media attention. I interviewed you around the time that I found out about Emma's story. What did you make of this pioneer being uncovered?
It was quite interesting, to be fair. I was quite surprised that it took so long for someone to actually bring it to light, but now that it is brought to light, I think it's good that more research has gone into it and people are starting to really know who Emma Clarke was and who the first black female footballer was in England.
Because we know a little bit about Walter Tile or Arthur Wharton, the first male black professionals, but nothing about Emma. How can that be?
I think, like I say, it's strange that no one sort of inquired about who the first black female footballer was, seeing as they knew who the first male footballer was. So yeah, like I said, I'm very surprised it took so long, considering the first match was played in 1895, so she would have been around for however many years before then.
That's it, and there's still so many questions that we have about her. We don't really know what it would have been like to, as a black female, to be on a pitch playing football. Well, one as a female, first of all, but in Victorian England as a black woman, all those people watching. Who were your pioneers and role models when you were coming through?
Growing up, it was Rachel Yankee, to be fair. So I used to go to a few of the England games, watch them live, and I would also always just look up to Yanks, as I call her now, and fortunately I was able to fulfil my dream and actually play with her for a few years. So yeah, that was amazing.
And what was it about Yanks that just blew you away?
Probably we played in the same position. She was in her prime. She was arguably one of the best left wingers in the world, so to speak. So I always aspired to be like her, even though I was right-footed. But I always aspired to be as successful as she was in her career.
There you go. That's for you.
I think Hope's done a lot for the game, the women's game. Not only was she black and female, she was successful in her time with England women. She was obviously very dominant and wanted things done a certain way, and I think that's necessary in the football game, let alone the women's game. And where she had loads of boundaries as well against her, I guess she overcame those successfully. From what I can remember, I think women's football was actually really big back in the day, and then obviously there was rules that stopped women's football, so it actually stopped the progression of women's football. Because if you look at the men's game now compared to the women's game, it's head and shoulders above our game. Who knows what could have been if the women's game would have continued to carry on. I think we have come a long way. I think there's still a lot further to go, but I think it'll be an ongoing topic, unfortunately, just in the society we live in. But I think if we keep, as women and as citizens, we keep pushing on, I think we'll get there eventually. But there is a long way to go, but we have come a very long way as well. Now I do see a lot more girls playing football, and a lot more same-sex group sessions going on as well. So it's not so much girls joining in with boys. It's a girl session with 10-20 girls, which is amazing compared to if you want to compare 10-20 years ago. Now I can make a living out of sport, whereas when I was growing up, looking up to the likes of Rachel Yankee, that wasn't really in my thought process. It was always, I'm going to have to get a job and then play football for fun on the side. But now I can actually play full time and focus solely on football and improving and being the best that I could be, which is, I didn't think it was going to be possible. So sport has really changed my life.
While I was researching for Eat, Sweat, Play, one of the really frustrating things that I kept coming up against was a lack of women's sport history. It was really hard to find who were the pioneers in women's sport. And then again and again, it seemed to be hand in hand with this idea that it was really unnatural for women to play sport. But how can it be unnatural for women to move their bodies, to play, to kick a ball, to run? It's one of the first things that we learn to do as children. One of the stats that I came across was that in over 200 statues of sports people in this country, there are only 2 of women, 2 individually named sportswomen in the whole country, and also a lack of blue plaques. And it struck me that there was this huge invisibility of women's pioneers in sport, of women who had overcome boundaries to get us to the place where we are today, and yet we don't know how hard they worked or what they achieved or who they were even. And that's where the idea came from for this campaign, the Blue Plaque Rebellion, to try and unearth those stories, shout about them, shout about these amazing women who did incredible things in really difficult times, and celebrate them for everything that they deserve. At the time of many of these pioneers, women were struggling for suffrage, they were fighting for equality. Sport was a really key part of changing women's lives in this country. My book is all about how sport can change our lives now, but sport has already changed so many women's lives. Join the rebellion online with me and the Women's Sport Trust at Blue Plaque Rebel, #recognise her.